Shalom. First and foremost, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham Yahweh Shai, Bahasham Recha Kudash. Double honors to the elders and the apostles of Great Millstone, and peace and blessings to the elect. And here they're saying that on July 4th, being today, there's federal officials warning of, as they call, lone wolf terror threats, right, today. And lone wolf in the sense that, rather than being in a group, right, more so like individual actors that are influenced or believe sort of the same thing as potential danger T groups going out and acting and causing mayhem here. And I was discussing with Aharon earlier today how we've been hearing, like, this isn't the first time that they've come out and warned about something like this, and it might not be the last time that they come out and warn about something like this. But every time they do it, it's accomplishing a couple of things, right? One being, getting people's minds used to hearing about the potential of something like this, and two, it's like using the tactic of the boy who cried wolf, right? In a different sense, right? In the sense of, you say it so many times and then nothing happens. Now, when you say it, it's almost like people don't even hear it. Oh yeah. There's always a potential for something like this to happen. And so eventually their guard goes down. Eventually to them, it's just like, it becomes a formality almost. And then randomly, boom, something happens when people are not expecting it. Because the first time they hear something like this, everybody's on edge. Like, oh my gosh, yo, they really could do something. This just happened, X, Y, and Z. And then the next time, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again, and then again. And then it's now like a formality for people. And then boom, you're at the beach, and then something happens, and you're like, oh shoot. All of a sudden there's a lot of, either breaking news going on or whatever the case is. So it says here, New York Governor Kathy Hochul has confirmed that federal officials informed her about a possible T threat ahead of the July 4th Independence Day holiday. Now, it's not without some, credence here, in the sense that you did have cases of people that were Iran supported, that tried to assassinate Trump, right? At least that's how that's how the information came out. Some were planning. I think there was one case that I did a lesson on it. You had an individual that was planning. I think he hired hitmen or something like that, and he was planning to do some attack somewhere, and then flee the country, right? So he would set up the hitmen, and they said that, I think it was the FBI that posed as one of the people, the inside people, and then got the information as to what this guy was planning, and then they ended up getting him. And you've had many other cases of people getting caught at the border with plans to, I think this one was more of a Hezbollah individual who said he was coming to New York to make a bomb. So, you've had these cases, and I'm sure there's been more, some organic, some for the narrative's sake. But we know that according to prophecy, at some point, something is gonna is gonna give in here, right? But we see what ballpark it's falling within, because anytime they come out and they warn, it's usually about something like this. If it's not a physical, like a traditional kind of T attack, then it's like a cyber attack or something along that kind of side of things. So it says here, our federal partners reiterated yesterday that lone wolf actors remain the greatest potential threat, including during the upcoming July 4th holiday, Hochul said in a July 2nd statement, without providing the names of the federal agencies or any specific details about potential plots. And if you go back and you look at what they ended up doing with the Patriot Act as a result of 9/11, you'll see how it's it's the attack itself, should something happen, is one thing, but sometimes the greater brunt of it is the aftermath, the chaos at the time, but what it leads to, right? And what justification it provides for more draconian measures, more security, more surveillance, to say that like we can't have this happen again, right? And for that reason, we need to do X, Y, and Z. So sometimes these events behave as catalysts that can very quickly drive forward, another phase in some agenda somewhere. The governor said state law enforcement officials are in an increased alert posture following the recent conflict in the Middle East, and that under her direction, state police will have an increased presence at large events throughout the state during the holiday, and will be closed. Oh, sorry, and we will be closely coordinating with local and federal law enforcement partners to ensure the safety of all involved, she said. National Guard personnel also remain deployed at major transportation hubs, as well as key bridges and tunnels within New York City. We are also actively monitoring social media activity and continue to be on high alert for any cyber threats. And um, one thing I also wanted to mention is, once it comes back to my memory, yeah, Lolan will come back. But there's a point I wanted to make on that about the increased alert. All right, it'll come back. It says here, while Hoku. Oh, right. And what I was gonna say here is the Wadi Basham El Shai. You have people that, as information like this comes out, have zero clue, right? They have absolutely no clue. And so they'll go. You can be at the beach, you can be at the mall, you can be really anywhere, right? And the mindset that you carry can make all the difference as to whether, if the place you're at, something goes down, whether you make it out okay or not. Because you're gonna have a lot of people. The term scrambling looks very different when it's like two or three people versus if it's a whole, thousands of people or hundreds of thousands of people. Because they're like roaches trying to scatter. They don't know where to go. They don't know what's going on. So it's just a lot of confusion. But everywhere we go, right? Matter of fact, let me pull this precept here. I think it's Ephesians 5. Is it 5? Yeah. Yeah, there we go. Ephesians 5 and 15. Everywhere we go, this is in mind, right? See then that ye walk circumspectly, not as fools, but as wise, redeeming the time, because the days are evil. The scriptures also mention the prudent man looketh well into his going, right? He foreseeth the evil and hideth himself. So we're always monitoring, reading, staying up to date. And wherever we are, we always have it in our minds that, you know, at some point, one day, when the Lord says it's time, something can go down really at any point. So we're not moving carelessly or ignorantly, but as it reads in Isaiah 33 and 6, right? We have that wisdom and knowledge and understanding of the Lord that'll keep us stable. So the second sign goes down, we in the spirit, we already know, okay, the Lord is going to guide us through in terms of what we have to do at that very moment. But what's really going on behind the scenes, what's really happening, we'll have some idea of what could be possibly going on. And that will keep you mentally stable, because when things like this happen in the moment, by not knowing what's going on, why it's happening, it adds to the confusion and it adds to the irrational decisions and behavior that people uh, do, right? And that's what ends up making them do stupid things because their brain is trying to process so many things at once that it eventually gets paralyzed. When you're presented with too many options, it's almost the equivalent of being presented with like no option, because you get paralyzed with the too much. You can't pick. So when sudden chaotic events happen and there's so much going on, sometimes people's brains just like shut down because they're just so confused. They don't know what's happening, and that messes with them. but having the stability in mind of not being ignorant to these things, when things go down, you're at least that part of your mind of what's going on, the confusion, it's not going to affect you as much because one, we have the spirit of the Lord, but two, we have a prepared mind, right? And an expectation that something like this could happen. Um, while Hochul did not elaborate, ABC News and other outlets citing an internal bulletin released by the FBI and the Department of Homeland Security reported that those agencies believe there is an elevated threat in New York and California during Independence Day. And I mean that's pretty plausible too, right? Because Independence Day, even other countries know about that, right? You know about the Independence Day of some other countries, so it's a pretty big holiday that maybe some adversaries of the U.S. might try to take advantage of. But we have to watch and see um, how things unfold. Let's see where we at. Right. Earlier this week, the FBI and other agencies sent a warning that Iran regime-linked groups could launch cyber attacks on U.S. infrastructure, although they did not issue any public warnings about TAs linked to Iran. See, so it bounces back and forth. It's like it could be a cyber attack, it could be a physical one, it could be done by lone wolves, it could be organized, it could be this, but we don't really know for sure. But we just know that at least with the way the country is set up now, it's more at risk because for years you had the doors wide open, so anybody could be in here at any moment, anywhere, planning to do anything. Um, see here. Yeah. For the past year and a half, the FBI has issued warnings about TAs inside the United States inspired by the Israel-Hamas conflict, which was sparked by a Hamas TA on October 7th, 2023, that left more than 1,200 civilians dead. And the day that happens, where there's a major incident like that inside of the US, but and they link it back and they either whether they're doing it behind the scenes or it's organic, and they link it back to like Iran or some what they've labeled as a terrorist group or something like that. You best believe that a whole lot is going to change. The way you see and live inside of the US is going to change completely. With this administration, with the setting, with the time that we are, with the being on the brink of this change, this transition, something like that is going to change the world really as you know it, but mainly in the US, a lot of things are going to change. And it's not going to go back to the way it was before. It never goes back to the way it was before. Right? It always changes and it just keeps on going further and further and further. So you see where they're at right now with the AI, with the technology, with the more draconian measures, the building of places like Alligator Alcatraz, right? Talks of restoring the original Alcatraz, mentions of this being the new model going forward. It's picking up, and so one event like this could really, really shift gears very quickly. But anyway, just wanted to bring that out. Low Willendale edifying and informative to the elect. In closing, I want to give all praises, honor, and glory to Yahweh, Bahasham, Yahweh Shai, Bahasham, Recha Kodash. And until next time, Shalom.